Okay, so this is the seventh episode of the Nostalgia Factor podcast. We do these like all the time.
Yeah, at least every 5 years.
Once every 5 years. It's just so people don't get sick of it. Which is to say that I don't get sick of hearing my own bullshit. So recently, I watched this new Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League, and you've been playing a ultra shit ton of.
I play Dark Souls and From Software games, Demon Souls on PlayStation 3, because I have not jumped into the PlayStation 5 world, but I hear that you have. So we're going to talk about the Demon Souls remake and maybe Elden Ring, which is the new From Software game that is hanging out in the future, waiting for us.
You tell me what you know about it. Just to get it out of the way, the first thing I want to talk about just briefly is Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. You have not seen either cut. Is that correct?
No.
But you
nope.
did see...
We saw Batman and Superman in the theater together back when it came out.
Okay.
That was it.
Clearly, we're gonna get into. I'm gonna. I guess I don't want to spoil it too bad. So light spoilers, because we got to discuss it to some degree. Batman versus Superman. I feel like it was better than most people. Like a lot of people that I hear talk about this movie seem to hate its guts. I'm not sure where that comes from. As a Fantastic Four fan, I want to tell like Batman fans to like suck my dick. Try being a Fantastic Four fan in the movie theater, because it's pretty fucking hard to do. So going in there and being like,
wow, they're really doing your Batman movie justice, because look what they did to my fucking Fantastic Four movie.
By comparison, my Fantastic Four movies have been total trash. Dr. Doom's always been an energy monster. Whereas Batman movies, even when they're bad, they're usually pretty fucking good.
Yeah, and I thought that particular movie had a lot of cool notes. There was a dark side to it. I feel like for some scenes, there was like the Superman family like flashbacks that were like real kind of corny, I guess you could say. For me, at least, I was just like, oh, this is like changing the tone of the movie, but then it like contrasted well to the darkness that went in there, that you sort of needed that wholesome, nice family stuff going on to like deal with the dark elements of like them dealing with losing their families, their dark sides.
It is a much darker film than one might expect. It cribs a lot of stuff from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which is a seminal comic piece. It's been kind of like what almost all of the really good Batman stories have kind of cribbed on. The Dark Knight Rises was heavily cribbed from that. It's seminal. Frank Miller wrote it and drew it. It's fucking incredible. And like the Batman armor when he's fighting Superman is directly straight out of that. There's like a flash where like the lightning strikes right behind Batman, and it's like that's the cover of The Dark Knight Returns. It's
there's my favorite part in that movie was like almost like a flash forward like dream sequence hallucination kind of thing, where Batman was wearing like awesome tech gear. It was almost like camouflage.
Oh, he's like wearing a camisole or whatever the fuck.
It was cool.
So like a future vision, and Superman kind of drops down like he's gonna interrogate him or whatever. You have Parademon showed up in there, and it was like
it was just a really different looking Batman. Like maybe he was wearing a trench coat, but he had like the goggles that were on, and he was just like not post apocalyptic, but just like post like military. Like all the Wayne goodies were left over, and he had like some awesome tech to work with there. So, like I said, I didn't see the Justice League movies. So, what are they like as far as their tone? I missed out on all of it. I don't know about Aquaman or Wonder Woman. I guess has 2 movies now.
Right. So one might expect,
I'm out of the loop.
Zack Snyder was initially the director for the Justice League. One might expect that it follows Batman versus Superman, both story-wise and thematically. But there was a changing of the guard because Zack Snyder had to go through some heavy shit in his personal life. He had to dip out. Josh Whedon steps in and films a whole bunch of reshoots, changes. I think basically by committee, they changed the tone of the movie dramatically.
Right, because I'm like, I'm automatically, as soon as you said Joss Whedon, I think of like Firefly, and then that immediately adds this campy kind of like fun element to something that I think is probably too serious and dark for that.
Sure, and I'm not a Joss Whedon hater. The Firefly is pretty cool. It's got its own vibe.
It's fun,
but
but
the problem with the original cut of
campy.
Justice League is that it muddied the water as far as tone goes. It's like, I'm going for this vision, Joss Whedon's going for this vision, and by committee, we've decided we want to make things funnier, and we want to do things lighter, we want to make more money. And
So he
what they
utilized partial footage existing and then added to it.
Yeah,
to
he
make
did. Yeah, he did a lot of research.
full
There's some of the,
continuity.
yeah, they're not going to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we're going to use some things we shot. We're going to redo some things, and we're going to, Joss Whedon had to make his version.
and take
Because
liberties.
Joss Whedon's Joss Whedon. They didn't hire a nobody. They hired somebody who is somebody.
Right.
And he brought his thing to it. But like I say, that muddied the water because now it's basically two visions in one movie, and it's off kilter, and it's got a lot of silly bullshit that really upsets you. And you say, like, why did they have to have a family next to Chernobyl who's got to push a truck, and they're like shooting parademons with like Lysol and shit? Like, what the fuck is going on? So it's really fucking stupid, and you can tell that that's Joss Whedon's horse shit. So our new cut is going back to Zack Snyder's original vision. They allowed him to do some reshoots, to kind of finish up his thing, and now it is tonally correct to Batman versus Superman. And I understand maybe you don't like Batman versus Superman. You probably won't like this because this is just a continuation from that film's look and tone and story continued on, including the parademon stuff where Batman is having his vision of the future. That stuff is mixed in there as well. And that stuff was not mixed into Joss Whedon's version. That's kind of some of the stuff that's cut out. This version is something of a miracle in which, just as a film geek, I've never seen anything as far as like, hi, this is the director's cut. This is the unrated cut or whatever. Like Donnie Darko comes to mind, where it's like the director's cut was a lot different from the theatrical version. But this is so different from the original version. It's just shocking. It's
like a different movie.
It's completely like a different movie. Toward the end, I wasn't sure how it was going to end. I'm like, is the Flash going to die here? What? Totally, like, Doomsday shows up in it. Like, the big bad, like Thanos from the Marvel's movies, is in this movie now. And he never was before. So it's like, well, is that guy going to step out like and beat everybody to death? Like, what is happening here?
So you can get like both copies of the movies are available. So if I want to watch, like, I can buy both on Blu-ray and watch them and be like,
the Snyder Cut is at this point in time only available on HBO Max. So you just subscribe to it. You can probably get a free
cool,
free trial of it and check out the movie. The movie went from like a 2-hour movie to a 4-hour long movie.
Oh God.
And usually 4-hour long movies could be like, you're like, maybe we should be wrapping this up, or maybe you're stretching it too far. And there might be some of that, but I feel like this movie never got boring. This movie was always entertaining.
It's a 4-hour movie.
It is a 4-hour movie that actually gave each of the characters proper backstories and actually kind of filled out like Cyborg. In the original cut, he didn't have a backstory really. He was like, his dad took one of those cubes and fixed him up. That's what you should get. He's there. What do you want? This movie gives him a full backstory. Shows like that he was a football player.
So as a DC comic book fan, like, what's better?
What's better about the film?
Yeah, which Justice League is a better film for the comic book fan?
The bigger cut.
Like,
the Snyder Cut is far better.
So he built his movie based on the better parts of the comics rather than the idea of the characters of the comics that the other guy did. Where he's like, let's make Batman in a fun vehicle that I have some ideas to put them in, and make like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of buddy movie or something with a scenario.
This movie has stakes.
Because I don't know. I don't know the tone of Joss Whedon has this way of doing things that are like serious, but in like a funny sort of like cheeky way. It's like,
This movie relies on certain characters to bring like their comedic things for levity. The Flash is a quirky kid. He's really. I thought he was funny. His introduction is goes on a little bit long. It's maybe, I don't know, slightly. I don't want to say cringy, but it's like, it's perhaps a different tonally than any of the other characters.
So they turn up the darkness
because his thing is like, here's the Archie comic book guy of the group. He's gonna be your slapstick guy. But his lines are fun. I liked them, and I liked his introduction. It brought in like Iris West. None of that stuff was in the original film.
Cool. But then they have like a darker side to the story than the theatrical version, so to speak.
There's definitely real stakes here. And throughout it, there's, it's kind of alluding to the fact that what they're doing might completely destroy the future. Like, and I believe what it's trying to say is that it's basically like infinite Earths type of thing. Like, the actions they're taking is going to basically split off to where you're in whatever universe you're in now, but your actions could have gone this type of way. And I think that's sort of what they're going with the Batman's future visions, is they're going for like an Injustice kind of storyline. Injustice being the video game that was on PlayStation and PlayStation 2, the Injustice series, where basically Superman's kind of the bad guy because Lois Lane got killed and he can't reconcile that.
So he becomes like a demigod.
Did you play that video game?
Actually, no, but I'm. It's coming in the mail. Actually, I've been playing PlayStation 3 and revisiting that console.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's a fighting game. The graphics on the second one are pretty amazing. Great fatalities and things like that.
Did they put that out on like cell phones? Like a long time ago, like as a free, like
there might be something
free play shop.
I'm not aware of it. It was also spun off into a comic book. The story for that Injustice comic book is pretty incredible.
Cool. So it's a fighting game that has a storyline
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's pretty in depth. But anyway, the Snyder Cut. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but it's
HBO Max.
HBO Max. Everything I said is basically kind of in the trailers.
Well, here's the one thing about the name. So I was like hearing the name and I was thinking, who is that? Zack Snyder. Why do I know that name? And it's Watchmen.
And how do you feel about the Watchmen?
I loved Watchmen. For me, I saw Watchmen after I had read the books. So I had the graphic novel, read it, and then I saw the movie and I was like, this is sort of cool.
And aside from like the ending, it's pretty faithful to the original comic book.
Yeah, and what was cool was there's a sequence that's like sort of reoccurring on the sideline of this young guy that's like at the news stand and he's reading like a comic himself about a pirate or like a guy who's like marooned on a deserted island like that, and it's kind of epic. They put those characters in the movie, but they don't show this maroon pirate thing. Anyhow, it's the Curse of the Black Freighter or something like that, I think is the name of the thing. And in the book, you're actually following along with that adventure of the guy. I was happy to know that they released that mini comic thing as a DVD back in the day after they released the movie. Yeah. Yeah, and it lines up with this awesome like black metal. I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the band. If it was Sinister, I think that might have been the band. My buddy gave me the CD, and I had it on the background with the cartoon. And they both started out at the exact same time, and they ended at the same time. And the music correlated with the visuals, so that was a really cool synchronicity. But anyhow, Watchmen was awesome.
And they released an ultimate cut of the Watchmen, and that cut incorporated the DVD from the Black Freighter into the movie,
where it should have been. That's great.
Right.
Cool.
So, like, I guess for completists, it is like the ultimate version of that. Zack Snyder's perhaps known for being a little bit more style than he is substance. For instance, his movie Sucker Punch.
Right. And now I could see that being like one of those films. It's like, it's awesome as shit, except for like all the reasons that the awesome stuff is happening.
I feel like it's
so to
it's
speak.
A gorgeous
is
movie.
That like at face value? It's like, wow, this really big pile of shit is just really cool.
It's somebody going through some heavy shit. Excuse me, who's escaping into the adventure of their own mind, and the shit that's happening there is incredible and gorgeous and stylistic to all hell. What's happening as far as what the plot is to that movie, it's stupid.
Thumbs
it's
are
beyond
down
stupid.
over here. I remember that being like, I was watching it and going, oh, this is sort of embarrassing. You'd think that with all these cool people, these actresses and actors that are crushing it, the CG, the editing was really cool. But yeah, the story and everything was just sort of boring to me. I was like not interested in that. But so anyhow, I'm looking forward. When you said that it's on HBO Max, I started thinking back to Zack Snyder's name, and it was like the fucking Watchmen. If you connect to that movie, you're into that. I'm at least taking that template of what he's done with that and then superimposing it to the Justice League. And then that kind of like gives me a little bit of a breadcrumb to go, okay, it's going to be great.
Well, but of course, the direct correlation is Batman versus Superman. That's the exact tone, and that's the exact continuum.
So he made that movie that we watched.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Of course, he's also known for Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
With Ving Rhames.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, the what's going on with Batman versus Superman is it's stark departure from what it was theatrically. It's really incredible. I did want to mention the aspect ratio is strange. Today we're used to movies being in widescreen, where we've moved on from boxy TVs. We all have wide TVs. Movies are usually wide now. And that's not an issue where people back in the boxy days were like, this movie's all widescreen with the black bars at the top and bottom. Looks stupid. This movie's strange, and that it's flipping that script. Because Zack Snyder filmed this with the intention of it going into IMAX theaters in a very tall aspect ratio. So IMAX would be a super tall vision of it.
Like, so IMAX is like wide and tall, where it goes
wide
above
and
you a
tall,
little
wide
bit.
and tall. But his release for IMAX was going to be super tall,
Right?
Like you're reading a comic book.
Into it, yes.
When you read comic books, they're tall. Not there's wide, like 2-page panels, but usually the comic book is tall.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why he wanted to do that, and he wanted to have this
So
very
he did
grand
a
IMAX
90-degree
vision.
angle. Instead of doing widescreen horizontally, he did a widescreen vertical.
Right. The thing is he shot the movie that way, and I think to make it widescreen for the theatrical version, they cut off parts of the image for the top and bottom to make it fit a widescreen image.
And that's how it looks on HBO?
No, that is not how it looks on HBO.
Oh.
It looks like the original vision of it, which is a tall vision. So when you're watching it on HBO Max on your home television screen, it's got black bars on the sides.
Right.
So it's like taking it back to like basically the aspect ratio of an older TV show. It's not exactly that aspect ratio. I don't have the number in front of me. It's they call it like the European widescreen. I don't know what the fuck's
Like
wide about it.
16:9.
It's very tall image, but the framing it's quite beautiful. But you got to get used to the fact that it's set in a box and doesn't fill your whole damn television.
Right. Cool.
So the bigger this television screen you have, the better. It's a very peculiar thing. It's one of those things, if you're kind of a film geek, it's something that shouldn't exist. Like, this guy was taken off the picture, somebody else finished it, something else came out into the theaters, into home releases, and now we have something that they put $70 million back into and added 2 hours worth of pretty good damn footage.
Right.
Changed the ending, added new things, added characters, major characters that were never in the original. I don't want to say exactly who those characters. I'll say Doomsday because he's in the goddamn trailer. But especially if you can wait to the end, there's some really juicy, really fucking cool shit.
I've heard really good things. Like I saw a couple Facebook, or not Facebook, but Instagram stories where there were just people just generally calling out to whoever had said anything weird about anything going on. Like, hey, I just watched the movie and guess what? This is how I feel about it. So I've heard some things so far, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I've been sort of the guy during COVID who's out of the loop. I've been doing my own thing, you know. You've seen some of my little YouTube videos, painting lots of tabletop miniatures and staying positive, playing video games. You know, I've played so many games over the past year. I feel like it's been interesting. Like there were some pretty good drops in 2020.
COVID video games.
COVID gaming.
But let's talk about the major one. or the major series from Software?
Yeah, Dark Souls.
All right, let's
Dark
switch
Souls
gears.
3, still going good in Dark Souls 3 these days. There's a lot of community action still happening. Anytime you go into Ethereal Boreal Valley after Pontiff Sullivan's boss fight, there's always some action there if you're embered up. So get ready for a fight, for invading.
Okay, so you're playing it online. You don't mind getting invaded.
Right now, I've been
Are
doing
you
all
invading
kind of
people?
No, not necessarily. I've been doing like kind of meta gameplay at this point where I'll start a brand new character with a specific goal in mind, a weapon in mind, a build in mind. For instance, this week I've been doing like a Berserk concept where I've created the main character of the manga Berserk, Guts. I've created a character that looks like Guts, and
I know him from the Dreamcast.
hell yeah. So I've created a small backstory where I'm limiting my character to the very first area of the game, and I'm going to allow him to progress in past any bosses, but build himself up with the resources available in the first level, farm them, exploit them accordingly, and put down white summoning signs to help people in the 2 area bosses, because there's a boss at the bottom of the steps, Vort of Boreal Valley, and then there's the Dancer of the Boreal Valley at the top of the steps. So I can put down a summoning sign. Somebody can come down in their game, see the summoning sign, and say, hey, I needed help in this boss fight. Now, most of the people that I'm getting summoning to are going to be for the Dancer and not for Vort. But either way, it's cool, and it's sort of fun to learn. Like, there's a rhythm to this game because it's free. It's the most beautiful kind of like conceptual fantasy art.
And by free, you don't mean financially. You mean
No, I mean free in terms of your like, if you play Super Mario, you are fucking Super Mario, and you can go straight and you can jump. And everybody that plays it is going to go straight and jump. And with Dark Souls,
it allows you to have your own type of build, kit out your character however you kind of deem it to be, and then tackle the game in any number of different ways.
Any way you want. And then it doesn't give you an instruction manual. There's no, for me as a person, I remember, like, you know, I'm in my mid 30s, and when I was a young guy, you know, like maybe 10 years old, I remember playing, you know, Game Boy for the first time, and I had Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. And then one of the kids in my class had an older brother with a subscription in Nintendo Power. So I had a problem where, you know, you got to get the 5 golden leaves, and then you got to meet the prince and give him the leaves to do the crows things. And there's all that. You got to do this to that, the other thing. We didn't have the internet back there. So if you wanted to have like community knowledge, it was about Nintendo Power. Whoever had the subscription or prescription, whatever, however you want to look at it.
And now we have the
They
internet,
would write it down.
message boards, YouTube.
I remember sifting through 5 pages of poorly hand-drawn 5th grade copied handwriting to show a walkthrough for Legend of Zelda for this part. Now with the internet, the community in Dark Souls and From Software games has become a collective unconsciousness. We have learned how to play in anytime there's any person who discovers something new, it becomes known in the community because we share it. You know, if you look online, you can find anything you want in any way that you want to be able to customize your journey or figure out something that you didn't know. And the game developers have created such an open story that's suggested through art and movement and like geography and architecture that it's like probably one of the most sophisticated pieces of art and literature and visual like cinematography that like I know. Like it's like my favorite movie, it's my favorite book. It's like it's epic. And I think that the thing that like kind of resonates with me is that whole like the movie The Neverending Story, where you're the kid that's reading the book and you're outside in a world, but you're also part of that whole world, and all the things that you're doing matter. So it's sort of like the grown-up version of that magic book in The Neverending Story, where you get to be a part of it. And with all that wonderful shit coming down the lines from like years and years, all the way back to PC, this game Kingsfield. So you can like trace all these From Software games all the way up.
Kingsfield was a From Software game?
Yeah. And they did like a ton of them all the way through PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I don't think From Software got onto my radar until they did the Otogi games for Sega.
There's a bunch of games, and they have this really, really special story that's sort of woven in through the items. So in 2009, they released Demon Souls. Demons, plural, as in the souls of the demons. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 2009, right?
I played it in 2010, so definitely slightly before then.
So that came out, and so...
And by played it, I put it in. I got to the bridge where the dragon shows up, and I didn't bother like looking up what is the deal with this. And plus, it's very early into that series.
Before the shortcuts opened
right, I got about there. I got to that dragon. I don't know how many times.
Dragon.
I'm like, what is the deal with getting past this?
Right.
And the deal is you're not supposed to fight it, is the deal. You're supposed to go cower in a corner, but I didn't realize that, and it just pissed me off. And I was like, I'm going to play something that appreciates my time.
So the thing with those games, like I was saying, is that you have the lore that goes along with the items, and it's sort of elusive. But like if you read every single item that you're dropped and pay attention to where you are and what's going on, a story is being woven. Sure,
the vibe and the lore and the overall look of that thing, it's very much black metal covers.
And they kick...
I appreciate it for that.
They push that item and like lore content into the next game. They'll dump like an item, like every game since Kingsfield has had a Moonlight Greatsword, even Bloodborne. So with all these cool correlating things, it's almost like they just keep retelling this epic story with different skin.
Is each one a retelling, or is 2 really a sequel to 1?
It's almost like this. We're dealing with it, like if you called Demon Souls Boletaria, you could be dealing with Eastern Europe as Boletaria, and then in Dark Souls you're dealing with Lordran, and then that is like Asia, and then all of a sudden you have like Dran Lake. In Dark Souls 2, that could be like Africa. And then on Dark Souls 3, we're dealing with America. It's geographical places that could all exist in the same world.
Sure, and it's the story from each of those places, but do the games actually reference each other in a very, very literal way?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like literal ways, meaning that there are specific characters that are from regions that have like tie-ins. So in the first game, you have like... the Knight of Katarina or the Onion Knight, Sigmar, or whatever. I can't remember his name. Whatever. Each one has a different name. But anyhow, their little stories go along and whatever inside their NPC journey. If you don't talk to him at a place, he won't move forward, and you miss out on it. So these games aren't saying like, hey, go over here and do this, and then you go over here and do this. It's sort of like, if you don't know, you won't know. But with the internet and now a community that discovers things, there's like an overabundance of knowledge and a lot of theories and a lot of speculative fill in the blank stuff. So the more you know, the more you realize there's so much more to learn and to experience. So you keep going back to play it a different way, and you look at a different thing when you play it. So
is some of the mythos that's surrounding this stuff community driven? Like you're saying that the communities are sharing this information, but is the thing, even if it's not in the game, the community is sort of like deemed it so because
absolutely. Like I said, there's speculative
the narrative is
lore.
Sparse for these games. It's in there in the item descriptions. It's in
right,
there.
But then it's also,
things.
But then like, okay, so for instance, any characters by now have YouTube videos that are connected to their backstory and the lore that correlates with them. And so say that you were a YouTube content creator and you had a passion for Dark Souls, you could like look at each individual NPC and choose one and then say, well, this is the story. So you did play Dark Souls with me for a beginning part of the game. In the tower, on the wall at the very bottom, after you get the cell key, there's a little dude who's in a thrall mask trapped at the bottom in a cell. Gray Rat, right? He gives you a ring and tells you to find Loretta in the undead settlement, right? Well, Gray Rat has a storyline that's very like specific and cohesive. And he is basically a small petty thief who makes a small amount of money by peddling wares to you after he goes and burgles. Hey, you've discovered a new place. Let me go up in there and get you some new stuff. So that's cool. However, if you keep sending him out there blindly, he's going to get into a spot where he gets killed and he never comes back unless you talk to this other guy who's sort of tied in with the storyline. And he references things to him. So the game nods to itself inside of the game, as in, with all these characters, with all this lore, it's exciting that you get like a different experience inside of the same experience. It's almost like I learned how to drive a manual. It was cool. Then I learned how to drive a Volkswagen manual. It was cool, and it was different because reverse is up here where first is. So each respective game has its, like, we're driving a Volkswagen now because we're in control, and it's different than other games where it's manual. But the make and model kind of changes and allows you to do different stuff. You get into Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and now you're like flying through the air, but the rules are the same.
But Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, isn't the character customization a little bit more limited?
It actually, at launch, it was completely limited to you are Sekiro, this is what you look like, but now they have added an update which allows you to do a boss rush at higher levels of difficulty and actually unlock different outfits to change your stuff. I haven't gotten into there. I got fed up with that game. I'm at the end of the game in the final boss fight.
You haven't finished the
I haven't finished the boss fight. It's like this book I'm reading. I'm reading Fever Dream, George R.R. Martin, and I love it so much. I feel like if I just read it for another hour, I'll be done with it. And I'm like, man, if I'm done with it, then I just got to either read it again.
So
or
you're
find
delaying
another
the gratification of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yes. One, because it's absolutely, and I'll be honest with everyone out there who's played it, you guys know that it's like super, super fucking hard, but at the same time, it's sort of like, if you're not good at it, it's almost like buying a skateboard and then calling Tony Hawk, the company CEO, and saying, I just bought your fucking skateboard and I can't do a kickflip. There's something wrong with it. You're making it too hard. Make it easier for me to do a kickflip. I bought your good skateboard. So if you're not putting in the time to learn the game, if you are, this series is a game that it blesses you with an overabundance of success and pride if you know what you're doing, and it punishes you for being hasty and for being overconfident and for being bored or being stressed out or frustrated. If you're getting scared or you're getting annoyed, you're going to get edgy and you're going to get locked up, and then you're going to not think, and you're going to miss your parry, and you're going to get fucking dusted, and you're going to gang busted.
Also, something
it's really fun.
Where you're going to get busted and dusted is kidding yourself out incorrectly. Is to say, if you don't have a plan or say, I want to kind of, like, you cannot mid-max this game so great. This is a game that says you really should go down this path, or this path. And that's not literal paths. Like the game is laid out to where it's going to have the same levels, but you can be a mage. You can be a knight. You can be somebody who's super fast ninja, but you can't be all three.
Absolutely you can.
You can, but not to a well degree.
Here's how it works.
Especially at the beginning.
When you start out, you cannot, because you don't have the stats. But in order to get the stats, you have to beat
the game and come back.
No, you have to kill a bunch of things to get souls. Here's what I'm getting at. With this specific thing that I've been doing this week with these characters that I have like made a game inside of a game to keep them at the base area. Now I'm leveling them up. I'm just not able to push them further into the game world. Okay. Now, with that being said, at the beginning of the game, you're depending on your progression by souls that are dropped. So when you kill a little bad guy, it drops 30 souls. To level up, it might cost 2,000 souls. Well, now you got to go around and kill a bunch of these little dudes that drop 30. Because it's the beginning of the game. You don't
and
have
each
big
time
drops.
you level up, it's going to cost 2,000 souls. Then
2,400.
souls, or so on and so forth.
So
it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You can't stay in one spot unless you want to have all the time
unless
in the world
unless you know a secret or you understand a mechanism. So right now I'm at a place where 3 years ago I would have had no clue like what I was doing, and I would have ran straight to the boss, and I would have fought the boss, and I would have gone through and be like, I'm awesome, I'm doing this. But what I did was I said, well, I've played this before. So I know there's a guy in this spot at the beginning of the game that has this item that I need. And if I get that item right fucking now at the beginning of the game, I can go right to that spot and I can get a bad guy that will drop 2,700 souls. And I found a way that when I lock onto him, there's an elevator behind me. You take an elevator down in this bad guy room, and there's an adversary that's just really too big to be in that area in a locked cell. You open the cell, you lock onto him, and you run backwards, and you wait for him to attack you, and then you engage the elevator and block. And when he attacks you, he's going to do a double swipe. And on the second swipe, his AI is still locked onto you. So he wants to go forward into you, but you will be going up. So he will be going fucking down.
Right.
And so fall. Every, 1 minute, you're getting 2,700. And simultaneously on your trip, there are these 3 little dudes who are dropping throwing knives and titanite shards. So what we're talking about is after a couple hours of farming and playing around, you've got a base character that's in level 1 world with a +4 weapon at level 35 that's ready to help out people forever in Berserk style. So Casca's coming to your rescue. Guts is coming. Griffith's coming. I made 3 characters this week, and it was a real fun way for me to be like, well, I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I can't play the Demon Souls reskin and remake by Blue Point.
Now this,
which I've seen and played
have.
A bit of. But there's a quirkiness and a weird rhythm that is just so unique to these games. And this magnificent company was able to put all that quirky, bouncy, weird timing bullshit together in this really buttery, smooth, gorgeous place that I recognized but didn't recognize.
You're talking about for the remake?
For the remake of Demon Souls, I would say that I've played through that game 2 solid times. One on a game guest one on a new PlayStation 3, and then I realized I could log in online, so I did it on my own. So I've beaten it 3 times total, but the second time or the third time I played it, I used an exploit, a glitch that allowed me to duplicate boss items. So in 35 hours of the game, I was at soul level 225, which is unheard of. I was walking around one-shotting bosses with my magic, and going back into that world after playing the remake made me appreciate both games so much more. I know it sounds strange, but the original on PlayStation 3 felt so good. After playing Dark Souls 3 for a bit, Bloodborne this summer, Dark Souls 2 on PlayStation 3, bit of that. But then playing the PlayStation 5 and seeing and feeling it. You got further into the game and you have a different experience because this is the first Souls game that you have the gumption to beat as a guy who does not have patience for frustration simulators. And you have
purchased this game as a launch title with my PlayStation 5. I decided I'm going to fucking beat this game because you haven't had a chance to beat this version of it yet.
Nope.
So I'm going to make sure this is the one that I've beaten before you.
Oh, and by the way, if you don't know out there, folks, which you might not, I used to not be interested in video games other than I'm going to go visit my buddy who's got some games and we'll play. Mr. Duane here told me that there was the hardest game ever, Dark Souls. And for some reason, I like that idea. And when I put it on, I was like, this is the coolest looking game I've ever played. It's hard, but there's something about it. I like looking at every part of it. So you actually got me into these games when it's all said and done. So for you to step into it and get excited about this game to put me in a place to go, guess what? Remember that game that I got that and I beat it. That's how I got into this whole thing, so I could do that. So I'm happy that you got the PlayStation 5 first, and you got to beat Demon Souls first.
Well, I didn't beat it by putting like contact mics on banana peels or none of that stupid shit. I beat it with a regular PlayStation 5 dual sense controller.
Playing it on a guitar. I watched that.
In any case, yes, I've beaten my first From Software Souls game remade by Blue Point. I guess my reaction to it is that it's something that I think sucks away a lot of time, but a lot of video games do this. I found my way through it. I actually wound up on the, I guess, like 4th stage. It was something like the Isles. Shrine of Storms, excuse me. It was the Shrine of Storms.
Right.
And I wound up on here. I didn't understand the light world, black world, the tendency.
World
shit.
tendency.
I didn't understand that stuff yet, but I learned a really hard lesson. And that when you beat a boss, you're a dead corpse who becomes human again after you beat these bosses. And what I did not understand, and this is a pivotal thing to understand about these goddamn video games, is if once you beat the bosses, your ass needs to commit suicide.
In the Nexus. It has to be in the Nexus, because if you commit suicide in a place, that counts as a death.
Tendency, right? You have to commit suicide in like the hub world.
Yeah.
In the hub world, collect your souls back up and then spend them. But you have to play this game as a dead corpse. You have to.
Unless you're good.
Oh yeah, unless you're super good.
If
it's your first time through, dying in like, I guess, human form turns the world darker. So basically the game says, if you're kind of sucking at this, we're going to reward you by making it harder.
Right, absolutely. Right.
This is not that's why the game is not for the faint of heart. And so I didn't understand that stuff. I was basically at the 4th world at this point. And that's pretty tough, like normal enemies is these skeleton guys.
And that's a typical FromSoft thing. What you're talking about, the world tendency, is there are events and items
that
and
only
gameplay.
happen at certain tendencies.
Exactly.
I got some gates open.
That's
that
the playability and the replayability of the game, is going like, well, I beat the game and didn't even know about world tendency. And I just obviously with PlayStation 3, I'm not going to be able to help my buddy and know that he's got like the penetrator sword. But all of a sudden I'm like, how did you get that sword? How did you get that armor? Where did you get that? Oh, you didn't open up that gate and kill all those, phantoms and get the item? That gate was closed.
Well, in any case, at the Shrine of Storms, it turned black on me.
Oh God!
And
that's a bad place.
That's a terrible place. These skeletons were just destroying me, and that's when I buckled down. I got super fucking pissed. Like my wife got up and left the room, went upstairs to go to bed because she's not going to be around me. That type of pissed.
And there's mana rays that are shooting you as well.
There's mana rays that are shooting you. There's
right?
skeletons. And then
there's gold
and you
skeletons.
have to like try to get past these skeletons along this ledge where every it's very perilous because you try to roll away, you will roll right the fuck off. In any case, I just buckled down and said, "Fuck this fucking video game. I'm going to destroy this fucking part," and I did.
Yeah. So when you get past the first corner, there's 2 gold skeletons that are even harder and more aggressive.
Yes.
So as you're creeping down and you're like in this perilous situation, that black world, light world tendency comes back. We're like, oh yeah, guess what? Fuck you again. And they throw in like a tougher corner enemy.
So I had to beat that boss basically on almost full black after getting past all those guys just to turn the world back to normal. And that's when I made that game my bitch.
So which boss? Is that the adjudicator?
That's the
or is it
the adjudicator? The guy's got a bird on his head.
Yes.
Okay, it was him.
Okay.
And I tried to do this like a cheese move on him. Like you go down and kind of hack him on his side.
You got to hit him in a lawnmower blade.
You can try to hang up top and shoot him with arrows, but he has like a tongue that lashes you, and I couldn't ever find a secret spot to like hang out and stay up there comfortably. So I had to keep going down. It took me 3 or 4 times to beat that asshole. But after that motherfucker and that whole spot, that game was butter for me. Butter.
What did you think of the hero, like the unknown hero or the unnamed hero?
What one is that?
He's like really, really big, and he's like, I think he's blind.
Oh, that one was retardedly easy.
It's fun though. Just
I-
saying, like
yeah, I
a lot of
think
them, a lot of the bosses in that game have like a gimmicky game mechanic, if you will.
Yeah, sorry, but that, like, literally, it took me so long to get through that one part, and I literally just kept leveling up,
Everything
and I
was
made that
easier
I made
after
that
that.
game my bitch. By the time I got to that dude, I think he was the next boss. Yeah, I had this spell that I don't know what it is. It's like a fire
because in
spell.
that
It's like an
part-
area of attack fire spell. I hit him with that twice. He was gone.
Firestorm.
Yeah.
So you're talking. That's the farm spot. You go in there and you kill the.
Oh yeah, just after the Judicator, there's a farm spot where there's a Grim Reaper type character, and he has all these ghosts that pop up. If you kill the Grim Reaper, all his ghosts die, and you get all their fucking souls.
See, I enjoy that,
But I had to get good before that spot to be able to get past the Adjudicator guy. And I guess I got some respect for the game.
See, I always had like this weird feeling when I played them, like there was something going on that I didn't know about. Because I played Dark Souls 2 for the first time on Xbox, and it took me 40 hours, and I was still in the second spot because I didn't realize that I shouldn't get scared and freak out and just let myself get destroyed, that I could be in control of it. And after
Wait, how do you get in control of it?
you have to create the opportunity to not make the same mistake you just made. So it's like I used to skateboard a lot, and I realized that it was sort of like a trade-in. It's like, do you want to land the trick, then do it properly, or you're going to get hurt again? You don't want to get hurt again because that sucks. So we're going to figure out where we're going to put our feet, our body, and we're going to breathe, and we're going to fucking do this properly. Now, chicka boom a chicka, and you count to 3, and you fucking try again. With that same gumption, you dust yourself off and try again, and you don't make the same mistake. And then the next thing you know, you're playing a completely different game where you start looking at your stamina bar. You start looking at like the move set of your boss and how you're planning your attacks and when and why. And maybe you get cocky and say, I'm going to parry this guy. And then all of a sudden you realize that when you parry and riposte on a fucking boss,
You do way more damage.
and you do 1/3 damage, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I'm allowed to know what to do and dominate it and have fun with it. And the next thing you know, it becomes Super Mario. And then you can go in a straight line, and then you can just push B and jump. And the next thing you know, something 3 years ago that you were throwing the controller around in the wall going, this is the hardest thing I've ever fucking done. I hate it. Now it's sort of like church where you're like, this is a place where I can like be in peace. And I know everything is where it's supposed to be.
Well, the skeletons on the Black Tendency
kicked my microphone
taught
a
me
bit
the
here.
skateboard tricks to where I could start backstabbing those guys. To where I start to like,
Yes.
wait, I can actually use my shield.
And the game
Duh.
rewards you
Like,
so much for that. where it's
most games,
whoa.
like, I don't know, Assassin's Creed or whatever, I never using my shield or my defenses, but that game, I had to learn that song and dance, and I got around it after the toughness of getting through that, teaching myself that game, and then of course through leveling up, the game was seriously butter.
And here's
after
another
that
thing.
particular spot.
You really lucked out because you got to play this PlayStation 5 version that is absolutely amazing looking.
So is that how you feel about it? It's pretty
It
gorgeous,
looks
right?
so good. The character design, the human element to these characters that have had a lot of there's a weird lack of humanity in a lot of these characters in Dark Souls where they don't move their mouths and they just sort of like talk in weird riddles and they're crazy or whatever. Obviously the characters are still the characters, but there's just so much more like expression and stuff to the human character, like the NPC concept art, whatever they made. It looks amazing, and you're lucky because that gave you incentive to continue to play as well. Where if you're playing on the PlayStation 3, you're like, oh man, this looks really good, but it's pretty
It's very dated.
it's pretty dated nowadays. So it has that sort of endearing quality.
Not just does it look good, there is one aspect of it that's really bona fide a game changer. Loading times.
For the PS5, absolutely.
It loads like a dream. Like going from one area to the next, it's seriously like 3 to 4 seconds. That's from going from like a hub world to a whole nother world. You're talking 4 seconds. The smoke comes up and boom, you're there.
I play Monster Hunter World a lot, and to me, some of those loading times are great because it's like I can throw the coffee, put my coffee down, pour it, go to the bathroom, take a leak, get my coffee on the way back in, put it down, grab my controller, and then boom, I'm ready to go.
That's another. There's a quality of life thing. You cannot pause any of these video games, by the way.
No, there's
none
no pause.
of them.
Except for
However,
Sekiro. Sekiro has a pause.
By the way, you can. There is a trick for pausing Demon Souls. Pausing it.
Okay.
Photo mode. You turn on photo mode. So it's like a lot of games have a photo mode where you can kind of like stop wherever the action is.
Bluepoint made it so you can move the camera
around and like take pictures of stuff. Not only
can you use that to exploit the game and like search?
Yes. So like you can like
really?
Yeah, like in that prison area, I was walking up to like corners, like
the Tower of Latria.
I'd turn it into photo mode, and I'd make the camera go past the away to see if the guy was coming, or if his back was there. If his back was there, I'd turn off camera mode, go up there and backstab his ass.
So Duane's got a periscope.
Anything I could do to get over on this fucking video game, because one way or another. And by the way, I didn't play any PlayStation 5 stuff until I had finished this. This was like a rite of passage to the new era of video games, the new console generation.
And you crushed it in 35 hours, right?
Yeah, it was like 35
That's
hours
awesome.
or so.
And I got some videos along the way on YouTube. So
I put some stuff on YouTube.
He's doing some stuff. I watched the Fire Lurker video. I watched a couple other videos of you farming.
Yeah, I trashed that Fire Lurker on the first try. Almost all the bosses I could beat on the first try. Elant took me King Elant, I think his name is.
Elant.
I beat him in, it took me 3 tries. The Adjudicator took me like almost 6 tries because I was way out of position for that. The Tower Knight, I think, took me a couple of tries, but for the most part, every boss was pretty in and out. And a lot of them can be cheesed. I think we mentioned the big tall guy. If you hit him with fire, he's toast. He's super susceptible to fire.
Yeah, there's a game mechanic inside there, like, it's gimmicky. So what I was mentioning earlier about, playing Dark Souls 2 on Xbox blind and putting in all that time at the beginning was that I wasn't utilizing the community in any way. I wasn't going online. I wasn't looking at a walkthrough or anything.
I was.
And, back in, 2017, I shattered my heel and was laid up. So it was like, I just got this, PlayStation 4. My buddy Duane got me this PlayStation 4. I knew that in 2 weeks my Dark Souls 3 game was coming, so I went online and I started like watching Dark Souls 3 videos and started like reading about Dark Souls 3 shit and like getting into it on the internet before I even played it. So I had already played the other games and felt my way through them, but this one was different where I was like, I want an organic experience, but I also want to know what I'm doing without spoilers. And once I started playing it, it was like I would do something, I would go in, I would have all this feeling of I just did stuff, and then I would go back and I would check. I would like go online and I would type in, like walkthrough, high wall secrets, and I would be like, what didn't I fucking do? What did I miss? What is behind that corner? How do I get over there? What's the easiest way to get that boss? And what I found is that over all the time, you can cross-train in these games. You can play Bloodborne for a couple days, and you can get into that energy of that game. There's
just minor differences as far as the mechanics go.
It's like that old joke. It's like the game is different, but the players are the same, or whatever. It's jazz. They're saying we're playing jazz in the key of E. And if you know how to play in the key of E and you're not scared to improvise, you can fucking play music. It's like an instrument to me. It's like music. It's like this really special thing because I'm a music guy. I'm an art guy. I'm a story kind of guy, movies and cinematics and all that, it's just always been part of my life. And I don't know any other game that I would ever want to play. Like these games are the games, I've got a 10-year-old. I'm like, what's the one game? If I can only have one game, what is it? And he looks at me dead in the face. He's like, Bloodborne. I'm like, you're fucking right. Because it's so true. All of the wonderful things that I love about all the games were perfected in Bloodborne and then reimagined and like remorphed and added in. I feel like the games are all just one game. And that leads us to this. Elden Ring.
Right. George R. R. Martin and From Software coming together to create. And what are your expectations for this?
Right now, they're really exciting because, I've been reading George R. R. Martin since COVID. I've read like the first part of Game of Thrones and then got derailed and started paying attention to more like painting minis and stuff and playing games again. Watched all of Game of Thrones, started reading Fever Dream like a couple weeks ago, and George R. R. Martin is a really good storyteller.
And that marriage makes perfect sense to you?
Well, the way that I understand it, or what I have, there's. Let me go back just a second and say that this game was announced in 2019, and we haven't heard anything about it really. Like in the past, there was a trailer. There's been no news, and it's become like the community's created forums of all these fake bosses and all this stuff. So they're creating their own lore and all this stuff, waiting for it to come out. And then there's been a leak of old gameplay footage or whatever. But the thing
is George R. R. Martin writing plots and themes and characters, or is he just writing lore?
He's writing the lore.
That's what those games are, is lore.
Yes.
There's no plots and characters and cutscenes that are like really in your face,
Miyazaki
like moving
is
plots
making
around.
A video game, and George R. R. Martin is creating the lore, the assets. He's saying this is the place.
It's almost
this is what they're dealing with.
Is he writing the world that existed before this shit happened?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
so when we're entering this game, I feel like the rules are going to be different. The game's going to be the same, but the rules are different, so to speak. What I perceive to be the game, Elden Ring, is like Dark Souls. It's like Demon Souls.
Yeah.
The difference is that when we're standing at like Boletaria and we beat the bad guy and we can look over the bridge and see that there's a hill down there, we can fucking go down that hill down there. And when we get down there, there might be a cave. And when we go into that cave, it might be like it might be like the Valley of Defilement. Right? Like all of a sudden you're in a different area, and then that might go to the gutter. But it's an open world game that would be more like Breath of the Wild. So you could go right to the bad guy, but from what I hear, there's horseback combat, which has not been utilized. And there's also jumping that doesn't seem to be like running and jumping. Like you can actually like push a jump button and just jump over there.
A jump button?
Yeah, like Sekiro introduced. I hear that
the reason I'm kind of saying like that is clearly the Demon Souls games have jumping, but it's like it's not as intuitive as one might think to just.
It's way
jump.
more intuitive. It's not as video gamey. It's more of a simulator. I really would like to step back from thinking about. Like, I feel like video game. If you play Dark Souls like a video game, then you're going to either be too good or too bad, because. Like I watched this video the other night. These folks have figured out a way to exploit the game's development to get down into 19 minutes and 45 seconds. I watched a guy the other night beat it in 19 minutes and 45 seconds.
Which one?
Dark Souls. Now he's utilizing exploits that are very cool. Inside of the game's like the coding, if you're in an area that is adjacent to another one and you die and you force a quit during a warp or a death, you'll actually push yourself through to the next area. It's called a force warp. The force quit warp. But anyhow, there's all these weird places to jump from point A to point B. Then it's all about when you beat Gwen, what your time is at the beginning. Anyhow, it's really exciting. And with all of that experience, so to speak, of existing in all these worlds and building different character builds and all that cool stuff, to be able to have a world that's open, that has regions, that has roving boss fights, that has weather, that has day and night. So like imagine you're like in a place that and then all of a sudden it starts getting dark, and then because it's dark, the fucking crazies come out, and there's all of a sudden like fire demons that are just like overwhelming you, and you're like, fuck, it's pitch dark and all I can see is like demons because they're on fire and now nothing is what it was like 20 minutes ago, and I'm gonna lose everything because we're in a different game. It's still fucking welcome to the fuck you zone, because when it comes down to it, there's a certain joy that these developers have, the relationship with like predator and prey. You walk into Dark Souls and you are prey. And when you leave Dark Souls, you are a fucking predator if you do it right. Elden Ring.
I suppose that's what I described with my experience with Demon Souls, and that I was that game's bitch around the level 4. And after that first part of level 4, I destroyed that video.
You don't ever want to be a bitch again.
No.
And you can take that in every boss fight.
But it's weird because you came over and played it, and you had your own kind of character build. You were a knight. You had all sorts of armor and stuff like that. And I put the control in my hand. I'm like, this is just like completely
it feels different.
Yeah, it's different
You're
because you decided to use
semi-truck.
like super heavy broadswords. Then you were like double wielding. Whereas I was like, I've got this Jason Voorhees machete. Fucking super fast, and I would like hit people 6 or 7 times.
You're like a Mazda Miata with a razor,
roll
and
out
I'm
of
a
the
truck
way.
with a fucking,
Yeah,
with a big blade on the bumper.
Yeah,
you know?
because you can play that game so many different ways and get whatever you want out of it. I can see the replayability there for the people who really want to delve in there. Myself, I might play it one more time, but you were just in my living room, and I have games that are still sealed because I work full time and I don't have time to play them. So the concept of a game that like you just play this game for life now. This is your game. I can't do that.
Well, it's not that this is my game for life. It's
No,
just
I don't mean that,
I'm
but,
waiting
like-
to find another. Like, don't get me wrong. Now, this is a really good thing for other video games because of Dark Souls. It's actually opened up my opportunity to be interested in other games. So, you know, since COVID times, I've played and beaten like a lot of games.
Right. I put almost 40 hours into it. That's a lot for somebody who
And they're
works full
Souls
time.
games.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't want those 40 hours to be 350, 600 hours and I'm on my like, you know, new game plus 6. At that point that's a diminishing
Well,
return
what's really
to
exciting
me,
is that you
whereas
won't
I
do
can,
that.
I can play a different story.
Here's
you
the
know?
positive element of that. And this is something you'll be able to appreciate because I know for a fact that right now, if I said, all right, Hotshot, I bet you can get 30 hours on Demon Souls. You could. And then I bet you could go, fuck, 30 hours? Shit. I know what to do now. I know where the bosses are. I know where those fucking skeletons are. And God damn it, I know what the fuck to do. And then you can have a different plan where you walk in and you start out the game with confidence. And even if it's like, I'm not in New Game Plus. So if you guys don't know about it, when you beat the game, I believe the first, maybe it's like Demon Souls, if you beat the game, you start over again immediately. They don't give you a chance to like, do you want to enter the next realm? You know, other times I think Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 give you the chance to start again. But with New Game Plus, you get to keep all your awesome gear, all that stuff that you've acquired, all your spells. The only thing you really lose are like the keys that open up like the doors to the whatever you got to earn.
Yeah, I'm more interested in going back to Dark Souls 3 where I got trapped. I'm assuming that when I go back to it, I'm gonna have to start from the beginning because I think my character's completely kitted out wrong. But I don't see myself
Well, how that works.
doing New Game Plus or replaying these games.
I wouldn't-
I have too much stuff on my plate.
Right.
to
I
be
would
able to
never
do that.
suggest restarting your character build because it becomes this certain thing where the game wants you to have to be balanced. It comes to a point where you're going to get to a point in the game where you're like, okay, well, I'm only so strong. And now it's stupid as shit that because they have what they call soft caps where you're like, well, I used to scale up pretty good now. And now that I'm like around level 40 on all my stats, what's the point? So you, instead of leveling up, you're like, I'm going to need some more stamina. And then by the time you're where you need to be, you're using magic, you're using miracles, you're using like, you're interchangeable. You know, I have a character that I created as something that ended up completely different.
And in
He
which
runs
game?
in Dark Souls 3. He's running around in a loincloth with or it's she actually, loincloth, Dark Hand, which does like physical damage plus dark damage. And at the beginning of the game, it's very overpowered. against the environment. I'm not really big in the PvP because there's a lot of people that only play versus people because it's like their way of dominating people and making themselves feel. It's like bullying. I don't really like doing that. I like co-op. I like helping people. But the pyromancy in that game is cool because it doesn't always have to be like you're throwing a fireball. It can be like you're casting a spell on yourself and you like push hot power into your body and makes all of your punching more intense and makes you take less damage. So I go into a boss fight and I push this thing in my chest. I think it's called Karthus Beacon. And then I just go punch, 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 punch. Because instead of hitting a sword where it takes 1/5 of your stamina and you can get 5 swings and you're done, I can hit 12 times. And every time I hit, I'm hitting for like 200, 300 damage instead of like 200 with the sword. So by the time I hit 12 times, that fucking boss is toast and I still got stamina. So it's like you decide how you play later. And with a game like Elden Ring, where it's sort of like a giant open world like Skyrim or whatever,
So right.
it's going to give you the chance to do even more.
We've done a heavy stream of consciousness kind of thing. But before we quit, your expectations for Elden Ring, of course, it's going to be awesome. But I'm wondering, is your expectations for it to be more narrative driven than previous From Software games?
Now, that is a good question.
Are you expecting to maybe be more open world? Like you mentioned, Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is a massive open, damned world, whereas Demon Souls and stuff, you have a hub world and you go very specific places and very specific paths.
Right.
Are your expectations for it to move in that direction?
Well, I feel like that is a good question because those games have a certain
it's
sauce.
unknown.
You have to start it like we'll just call it like the bonfire or the archstone or in Sekiro it's I can't even remember what it's called. It's been so shame on me for not even remembering the idols.
Archstones, bomb side, idols.
Okay, so anyhow,
It's where you save,
where
and
you
move.
save and where you level up and where you're doing your thing, right? So it seems like the same formula is there. You're gonna kill bad guys. You're gonna get souls. If you die, you're gonna lose your souls if you can't get back to them. Now, yeah, that's a good question. Who knows how they're gonna set it up? I do feel like the fact that George R.R. Martin is writing for them is going to create a different element of lore. I don't think that he is going to be writing something that's completely like has the continuity that they would write. Now, one thing I do want to mention, and I mentioned earlier, I'm reading Fever Dream. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the main director of From Software, who does he directed Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. He is a huge fan of that author, and I heard that he gave that book to people that started working for him as a reference point to get into his arena and think about, like, if Miyazaki is saying, read this book and you'll understand a little bit more about the shit where I'm coming from.
Is Fever Dream part of the Game of Thrones universe?
Nope. It's mid 1800s. It's sort of like if Bram Stoker and Mark
a one-off,
Twain.
or is it part of a series?
It's a one-off.
Okay.
It's like Bram Stoker's Mark Twain Mississippi steamboat vampire shit, and it is so not what I just said, but it's absolutely amazing. The writing is great, and I started reading it because of that. And thinking about that, to inspire someone so much to take pieces of, and these guys are borrowing a lot of shit. The guys that make Dark Souls are taking assets and concepts from a lot of other things and putting into their stuff. A lot of stuff is coming from Berserk. And I didn't even realize that until I started digging deeper. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is so crazy. It's all kind of like all these things I can enjoy simultaneously, and then knowing that having a balance between like a really, really, really good, rich story, and then not knowing what that story is, but knowing that you're in it, is what I feel is really special. Like Dark Souls allows the story to be told through how you want to play, or how you want to receive the stuff, or how you want to ignore it. And having that kind of subjective attachment to a game with like objective, what am I trying to say? Like what they give to you. They're like, here's objective shit. Make it your own or dismiss it. But whatever you get is going to be interesting. And I think we'll probably get more plays out of that game than you think.
Right. Well, my hope is that it does evolve the series, or not series, but the From Software formula. I'd like to see it do the more Breath of the Wild thing. I'd like to see something that's more narrative. I'd like more than I want to see something specific. I'd just like to see it change some.
Well, a lot of people are going to be happy when it finally does come out.
So
there's a lot of waiting for that one, and there's no news. So
we'll see what happens when that happens. Anyway, this episode went on about 3 times longer than I wanted it to, and it's probably the nerdiest thing that we've ever discussed to some degree.
I don't know. We talked about Trailer Park Boys and Evil Dead.
Someone who's never played these games cannot bear this conversation. This is going to be pretty tough.
Hopefully they'll go out and play the games.
They should give them a shot at least, right?
Absolutely. And at the very least, I would recommend going online and checking out Vidivadia or Vadividya. He's a really, really good YouTuber who creates videos that are specific to Dark Souls lore, and he explains tons of stuff, and he sources lots of other people in the community. So it's like, if you hear something cool and you post something, someone else finds it, and then they say, hey, I'm making a video, I'm going to use your shit, put your secret in my video. The next thing you know, you go back in your game with all this cool new information. So, anyhow,
check
Zack
this stuff
Snyder,
out. Yeah,
the director's cut.
Check out the Zack Snyder director's, or the Snyder cut of Justice League on HBO Max. We might come back to start doing these episodes more often. Also, check out Shaun of the Dead on YouTube. You've been making a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah, actually, since January this year, I've started putting content on my YouTube channel, and I'm doing minis and painting. I'm painting Warhammer minis in time lapse, so you get to see a start to finish process. It's busy. There's original music. It's fun, and it's really what I love doing, man. I love being creative. And
link for that down below.
Yeah, check it out. We really appreciate you guys listening, and check out our other Nostalgia Factor podcasts. We got some interesting, subjective, geeky kind of things to talk about. We will tell you, if you don't like this, then fuck you. So if you're not into hearing that, then you've listened this far.
I mean, you don't wait. So you're telling me you don't like Mad Max Fury Road?
Right.
Get the fuck
if
out
you
of
here. You fucking already blew it if you didn't see it in the theater. We'll tell you that.
You already fucked up.
If you fucked up if you didn't hear Duane tell you that you fucked up when you missed the fucking podcast. But you can go back, where we'll be doing a lot of cursing, and my voice will sound really, really weird. I'm going to hit puberty soon, so it's going to sound a lot cooler someday.
All right, so
anyhow,
I'm Duane Thomas. This is Sean Matuk. We're the Nostalgia Factor Podcast. Thanks for
guys.
tuning in.
Next time. Peace.
Peace.